Now recording. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's another incredible episode of Keeping It Real. I know I say that every time, and I come through with it every single time. Today is definitely not going to be any different because I have somehow managed to wrangle in the most influential man in the industry here. And I would like to welcome Mr. Alan Mick to Keeping It Real. Alan, how you doing today, bud? Before you even say anything, let me mention one thing.
Yep.
We didn't discuss any of this beforehand, but that brick background, man, that's amazing. It looks perfectly straight and it looks absolutely incredible. So kudos to you and your
thanks.
background.
I'm in Scotland right now. You know, this is rustic and this is true as hell. You know, not fake or part of the camera angle or anything like that.
Totally looks real to me. I love it.
It's a great studio. I love it too. It's not a green screen. A lot of people think it's green screen. No, it's real backdrop. But I appreciate it, man. My day's going amazing. I actually had donuts with dad earlier.
Nice.
At my son and my daughter are in preschool. It's 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And today was a very special day. I got to drop them off. We got to go in. We got donuts and donut holes, coffee, orange juice, and apple juice, hanging out, spending a little extra time with my kids. So couldn't go any better.
Right. And that's what this is all about. I feel bad because I went to the gym this morning. I could have probably had donuts and we could have shared an experience, but maybe
I
I'll
was
do
at
that
the gym
for
too.
lunch.
5 a.m. I was there at 5. Donuts with dad was at 8. So
I
know
see,
you're an
so
early
that's what
riser.
it's all about, right? It's like, hey, we're going to do donuts, but beforehand, we're going to make sure we're prepped for donuts for dad.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I put the extra 30 minutes in so I can get a second Krispy Kreme every now and then. So much appreciation for that. I know you're a super busy guy. I wanted to kind of touch on that. We were talking just very briefly before we started, and I told you, you know, this is not like a roofing podcast per se. Kind of started that way, but it's taken a weird course turn, and now like I have magicians and morticians and professional wrestlers and chefs and best-selling authors and all kinds of stuff. So it's a much more diverse audience than I had anticipated. You are the winner of the most influential man in the roofing industry, but not all of my fans are from the roofing industry. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a couple seconds, give a brief intro to yourself so that these folks over in, I think Nigeria was my third highest fan base is in Nigeria. So let the folks over in Nigeria know how much we love them and who Alan Mick is as a man.
We love you. Everybody in Nigeria, we love you. Everybody that's listening, it's an honor to be on the show. It really is. I've been a fan, so I love it. And it's cool that it's naturally progressed to just, hey, open wide up. A little bit about myself. Who Alan is as a man. Well, first, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and a man of God. You know, if that's where you want to start with where I am as a man, but kind of where I've came from, how I've gotten here. I wasn't always that, right? I was always a man of God, but not always a father or a husband. I was born into the roofing industry, and I think that made me who I am today. So, and not just like any part of the roofing industry, just like the storm restoration industry. So all growing up, I was storm chasing, traveling around. I went to multiple different schools through like elementary school, and was all over the country, and it kind of meeting different people, but all the while watching the business. I always fell in love with that at an early age. And I think I was born to be an entrepreneur. It just so happened I was born into the roofing industry, which is in my mind, one of the best industries in the world, especially the storm chasing roofing industry. And just came up through that. I listened, I learned, I paid attention. I was a sponge. I was blessed to be around a ton of mentors. There's people that I was blessed to be around that people would pay tens of thousands of dollars just for consulting or to learn more about or anything like that. And I was around them every day. So I took advantage of that. And I listened to everything they had to say. I shut my mouth and opened my ears, and that created who I was in business. And then I met my wife in 2017. We had our first baby in 2019 and realized that I was tired of storm chasing. So I keyed in on the other part of my entrepreneurial spirit and started opening businesses. Exited my roofing company in 2019. Then I moved into the tech industry. I did a little bit of commercial development at the time. And when I lived in Missouri, moved to Texas, where I claim to be from, because that's where I went to high school and went to college, and most of my family's from. And then from there, I now run a national pre-litigation law firm that focuses on commercial. So that's
There you go,
10,000
right?
foot
That's
view,
kind of
real
running the
quick,
gamut.
where I'm at, right?
Yeah, in a nutshell, here's what's going on. So that's amazing. Let's start off with the being born into storm chasing. And I have a little bit of a understanding of our industry, and I kind of understand where you came from as far as the company and the size and all that stuff. You weren't like one of the small time guys that was born into a tiny operation. You've seen it on a large scale for your entire life, like you said. But as a kid, this is something that's always kind of fascinated me, right? Because I've always wondered, as a kid, what is life like when your family literally is picking up and moving around several times, sometimes per year. You're having to, start over. As a kid, that's not something that you signed up for. But obviously you're along for the ride and you don't really have any say in it. Probably seemed normal to you. But what was that dynamic like, having to go every, once a year, relocating to a different place, like you said, going to different schools, having to make new friends? Do you think ultimately having that life is what developed you into the person who's able to go out and diversify and do all this stuff?
Yeah, I credit everything I have to my upbringing. That's my parents, the people I was around. I don't feel like a lot of people are, man, you must have missed out on so much. There was a little bit of that when I was younger, when I was in elementary school, and I made friends really easily everywhere I went. I had to. I didn't have a choice. I think maybe there's a chance I could have been introverted. Maybe there's a chance I could have been that shy person, whatever else, but I didn't have a chance. It's with straight extrovert, people person. You got to meet everybody. So I don't really know who I would be today if it wasn't for that. I had to go out. I had to meet people. I had to make friends. I got to watch a lot of how people are in different places. And I know we're talking school, but the schoolyard and how people interact with people, it develops later on in life. So I got to see who these group of kids were, these group of kids, how they interact with each other, and how to make friends, how to go in and make friends. I mean, there's a big book on it, how to make friends, influence people, and gain benefit. I kind of was self-taught that through that age, going through and learning and listening and everything else. As far as traveling, it was tough for a little bit. I would get in these places and all of my friends would start having conversations about their younger years when they were in grade school or elementary school. And I never had those conversations. Like, I felt like a fly on the wall, like I was out of place. Like, people would talk about the elementary school that they went to, or when they were in Pee Wee football or things like that. I didn't have that. So I think if there's any negative, that's probably what it was. But I think the positive way outweighed it,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I grew up with our family had a business as well. So when I was, I joke about this, but it's true. I was about 7 years old. My dad would take me in and I would stock shelves and do the little details that the 7-year-old that thinks he's, running the show was doing. But I think that made me who I am as well. And I appreciate that, in those moments, I was mad because it's like, man, my friends are out. It's summertime, they're out doing all this stuff. And I didn't even get the benefit of my hard work getting credit because I worked my butt off all summer and I'd spend my money on my own stuff. So I'd be back in school with like the nice Jordans and the expensive stuff that I worked all summer long myself to get. And, you're the spoiled little brat and you're the kid that doesn't have to work for anything. And all your friends hate you because they don't have that. But it's like, hey, man, I wasn't laying at the pool either. So I think there's a valuable lesson to that. And I respect it because I've seen that many, many times over the course of my 25 years in the roofing industry, where you go to the job sites and you can see the family atmosphere, even with the install crews. I've seen the children of my installers grow up and become installers. And to me, that's the coolest part of this whole deal. But I also can appreciate you getting to the point where you're starting
my babysitters. It's funny you say that. The installers, a lot of that. I remember growing up, like it was, what was it? It was my dad's 40th birthday. And my father, my Uncle Marty, my Uncle LC, like a bunch of them all went out on a big night at the town. I think we're in Chicago at the time. I don't know. I have no idea how old I was. But one of his crews that had traveled with him everywhere. And this guy, he's probably still around today with hundreds of crews all over the nation. Big, big crew guy. But it was his wife, his mother and like his older daughters that came over and watched me, my brother, and my cousins while they all went out. And I remember she was telling us like stories of like old Mexico and like scary stories and stuff like that. And I vividly remember that. I must have been 5-6 years old, just really young. But I remember every second of that night. And it was just cool being like exposed to so many different people. And my family always treated everybody like family. So it's like, they weren't those guys that, oh, this is the roofing crew. The roofing crews, we're traveling together, everything like that. Everything became one. We were just one big family. So yeah, it's really cool you say that. And yeah, that's exactly.
It's a family deal, and I love that aspect of it as well, because they watch you and they really truly care, because they appreciate what's, mutually beneficial to everybody. And I think as a kid growing up, I mean, you learned how to make money, how to go out and be productive when other kids were playing video games and sitting around doing nothing. And when you look around now, you can tell, okay, well, thank you. 25 years later, that really did help. So pretty awesome. Tell me about the dynamic yourself. Okay. You get married, you're starting a family, you decide, okay, after my life being on the road, being dedicated to storm chasing, you wanted to wind down and get out of roofing. Tell me a little bit about the dynamic behind that, because obviously you're fully entrenched in it. You've got a huge business. You're successful. You're doing great. Is that a decision that you came to, or when you went into it, at some point, did you say, at this age, I'm going to start doing this?
I think it was years and years leading up to it. I never wanted, as much as I value and I love my parents and I love everything they've given me. I love my family, what they've given me. And I appreciate my upbringing. I wanted to be a little bit different, right? I want to raise my family in one place, let them grow up there, be around them, be at all the sporting events. So all through, really, it was my 20s roofing. So I started out and I was storm chasing. I started out in high school, summers in high school, just like you said, right? So I would go out with my father when a big hailstorm would hit, and they'd go open more offices. So they wouldn't open just one office. They would open 2 to 3 offices, and they were sets at the time. So sets, it was somebody else's company that they partnered with, and they utilized their local name. So some of these places were so small, we would go in and have 2 or 3 different ones. So you weren't the only company in town telling people, hey, you have storm damage, you need to file a claim, you need to get a new roof, the insurance company will pay for it. So growing up, again, going back to growing up, that was a big part of it. We'd go into Kinko's, build out the brand, build out everything, bring everybody there. And as much as I enjoyed that, I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted a different life for my kids. So I was, okay, now I'm in my 20s. I started out from the bottom selling and slowly worked my way up. It was put my head down, focus, do as much as possible, build as much as possible, and grow through the business. That way I would stack up some money to eventually be able to do that. I didn't know how or where it was going to go. And then skip way ahead. I definitely, I don't know if I suffered, because I call it it really is a blessing that I did party a lot throughout that time. I got it out of my system.
It's roofing. We've got the reputation. It's earned. I tell everybody that.
It is
an earned reputation.
It's an earned reputation. But if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be who I am today. So when you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, and you're making more money than you ever should, and it's like, well, I can go out and do this. And I traveled and partied. And so and that was a big part of it. I made the choice to do it. So that way I could say, when I did meet my wife and when I did settle down, that there'd be no looking back. Like it's all out of my system. And I truly did enough to where it is that way. Like nothing, I don't even, when we go to the shows and the events, I go out for like 30 minutes and I go home. It's not worth it to me. I just rather go spend time with my family, or get home, get to sleep, and start the next day. So going in, it was all building something, and it was so different. Like you said, I was almost jaded to the success that a lot of my family members and the family business was. Like, we would look at a $20 million roofing company and be like, that's small. We really thought it was small. Looking at people that I now, being on the other side of the industry, we thought were small. We didn't think they were big players. And I don't say that to like impress you or anything.
I understand. Yeah, I understand the magnitude of what you were working with.
That was the mindset, but it got so taxing. We were, especially, I was talking to LC about it one time, and he was like, man, I'm just tired. The reason why he sold Aspen, he was tired of being a high school vice principal. It was just too much. Managing people, I like managing people, but it's like, when they keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, they don't get any better. It becomes monotonous, the task of managing the people. And it's not even the people, it's like herding cats sometimes. So you got this big organization that has 250 to 500 people and doing amazing. But I look at the leaders of them, and they're still doing everything day to day. Like, their day-to-day tasks, they're involved in every decision making. It's like they never scaled themselves out of it. So I look at it, that's not what I want out of my life. I don't want to be this person running this giant organization. Of course, the power, the influence, the money, like all those things that come with it, that's great. But if it doesn't get you the time or the freedom to spend with your loved ones or do what you love most in this world, then what's it all for? So that's what I started coming to the conclusion of. And my father was always partnered up with Marty and Elsie and all them. He was really number two in all their businesses. And, I had talked to him, a lot of conversations with him. I always talked a lot of conversations with Elsie and a lot of other very influential people in the roofing industry at the time, and talking about different business models. And this is where I first began to see, like, there's more than one way to do this thing. You don't have to go out and do 200 million a year with 500 people in 25 different locations. You don't have to do it that way. You can go recruit 10 to 15 guys that are all Navy SEALs type people and going to go out and sell 1 to 5 million a year. And you pay them really well, you treat them really well, and you go from one storm to another and do it that way. And that's where it started to develop for me. Like, let's go this route where it's less headache. Maybe it's less exposure, less notoriety. Your name isn't everywhere, but I never cared about that. It wasn't, to me, nothing was ego. I saw a lot of people. I was blessed enough to learn from people's mistakes. A lot of the people that I talk about, I could say a lot of good and bad things about them. These leaders in the industry, the past ones.
That's our industry. You gotta love it.
But I was blessed enough to learn. There's two sides to everything, and I was blessed enough to learn from their mistakes as well. So I saw that. I saw the mistakes. I saw like how ego can bring people down. I saw how greed can bring people down. And again, I just wanted to do the things differently. So when I started my own roofing company, it was that smaller scale of things. We flew under the radar. We had 10, 15 guys in each location, but they were just all heavy hitters. They're not guys going out selling 2 to 500,000. There's $1 million plus only. And we'd go in and we sell what we wanted to every single storm. And that went really well. But at the same time, we were storm chasing. Like, I was trying to build a brand, but it just wasn't working because of the storm chasing. You couldn't get out of the storm chasing. Storm chasing is such a short-term gain, because when you go in to a local market and you use an existing name, you're leagues and just miles ahead of the competition because you've been there for 40 or 50 years. So you look at the math and you look at the business, and it's like, I'm going to make this much more by using that local name. And the story is, it's like, look, your local company cannot help do all the roofs. So we made a partnership. We're going to come in and we're going to make sure that these out-of-state companies, these guys out of Kansas City, these Aspen crooks, these guys don't take all the business, send all the tax money elsewhere. So it was a very simple thing to do. And it was simple to be really successful at it in my mind, where to build a brand, to do that longevity to what I always wanted, it was a lot tougher. I mean, even the early years at Aspen, they always really struggled because they were out of state. They were out of town. They had a big target on their back, and they couldn't hide behind that local brand. So it started going that way. And then I met my wife, and Denver had a lot of big hailstorms. And from there, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm going to build my brand. It's going to be in Denver. We're just going to do a roofing company in Denver. And that didn't work because COVID hit and all of the storms started to dry out. So I went to Missouri for a hailstorm. So we're like, okay, this will be the last one. This is a really good hailstorm. It's a family friend. Let's go bring all the people there. It's kind of not affected in COVID. It was kind of one of the places where it was such a small town that it didn't hit. So I went there, and I think that was 2020, and left the storm chasing behind. This was going to be my last storm. And the partners that I had partnered with were very influential in Central Missouri. And we started a commercial development company. So we started buying properties. We started building neighborhoods. We built a strip mall. We had all kinds of stuff. And that's what I really wanted to get into. I like big business. I really enjoy taking business principles are universal. So I enjoy taking these business principles that allowed us to go into an area and partner with a company that was doing 100 roofs a year and start doing 100 roofs a week. So you take those business principles and you apply them to a different type of business, and you're going to watch that business excel. So that's what I really wanted to do. And I loved it. My wife and we got a really nice place in Missouri. Missouri's a lot cheaper than Colorado. That had a big part of it. And we hated Missouri. We hated Central Missouri. We're like, what are we going to do with our son growing up living 2 hours away from a zoo? Like, this doesn't work for us. We're not happy. And I could have stayed there. I'd be like 10 times more successful than I am today under that business. I had a very amazing mentor of mine. I'm going to have him on my podcast sometime this first season, but DeLine Holdings, Greg DeLine, and he does amazing. And I remember sitting down with him, and it was one of the hardest things that I had to do was tell him that I was resigning. And he's like, Alan, you're a diamond in the rough. Like, I love having you, and it's a huge loss, but there's no getting this position back. We're partners. And if you ever came back, you'd always have a position in one of my companies, but you wouldn't be a partner again. And, that was kind of a heavy blow, having your mentor saying, hey, be really careful about this decision because it changes a lot of things in the aspect of your life. But my wife and I had just went back to Texas for Thanksgiving and a friend's wedding. And it just was almost where we were meant to be. We were just happier. My wife and I had a group of friends there. We were able to spend time with each other. Our kids liked it better there. We had more family there, which is here. Now I'm in Texas. And we made that jump and built out a business called Just Share Media, which is a platform that helps roofing companies through pulling them out of the digital stone ages, utilizing videos. That went amazing. I was very blessed to partner with the right people there and watch that take off. And that allowed me to do that. I started doing consulting for roofing companies and PA companies. Really loved the claim side of things, and skip a couple ahead, national claims advisors. Kind of, to answer the question, it kind of played out. I kind of just went on that road of going through it. I knew the vision at the end of the tunnel is find somewhere that I can live and that I can be happy with my family and definitely plant roots. And I wanted to be in a smaller town, 30 minutes outside of a big city, 45 minutes outside of a big city. So it had all those big city things that we could take our kids to, but still a small town. And now we're in Waxahachie, Texas, which is where I went to high school, and it checks all the boxes, and we're here loving it.
I love Waxahachie. That's one of my favorite places to visit. I've got friends over there. That's a really cool story because, like you said, I mean, sometimes people prioritize success or what the definition of it is as the most important thing that they could do. And it's not always monetary. It's more, I think when people realize there is a lot more to life, like you said, running a company with 500 people that's doing $100+ million every single year. That's a lot of stress. There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah. And like you say, it's almost impossible really to get yourself completely out of that scenario. And you're always going to kind of be stuck when it gets to a certain size because, I think the people around you get intimidated by it to a certain degree as well. So that's pretty amazing that you were able to just say, hey, this isn't what I want, to completely pivot into a different direction and start helping people, with stuff that they needed that you were aware of from your time doing the contracting. So that's pretty amazing. Let me ask you this. This is kind of amazing how you and I actually met, to be honest. I was over here in San Antonio and kind of the same thing. I had a roofing business here and was partnered up with a great group, a great bunch of folks and great friends I'm going to love for the rest of my life. But it just kind of got to the point with me where I didn't love doing that anymore. And, dealing with insurance carriers and homeowners that get mad for just ridiculous reasons. it got kind of tiresome, and then I went through a little period last year or the year before where some family stuff happened, some people in the family are no longer with us, and it changed, and you had to kind of veer off for a little bit. And I left the company in the hands of people that maybe weren't quite ready to do what it was supposed to do. And it just brought me down to the point where, a couple weeks ago, I just finally said, you know what? This is too much for me right now. I don't want to live like this. I don't like being stressed out all the time. I don't like this aspect. After 10 years of contracting and 15 years prior to that in distribution, I just wanted to try something new. So I completely appreciate and respect it. And, to be honest with you, Alan, the way I got here to San Antonio was the same thing. I was a sales rep, and these guys approached me about buying a company that was out of business, and I ended up in San Antonio with that for 4 years. So it's a cool experience, but being able to say, you know what, maybe this isn't the best way that I can reach or help as many people as humanly possible, or just to have the life that I really want. Not too many people are able to do that. So that's pretty awesome. I'm happy to share that trait with you.
Thank you. Yeah. I related the minute you said it. And the minute wasn't like an easy minute. It was a tough minute because we were running. We were in the middle of a 5. Yeah, I just stepped out of my business and I instantly just clicked. I don't know. I felt it. I was like, man, I already relate to Chuck on so many more levels, because you don't get out of the roofing business unless it's something like that. There's people that have some catastrophic event or something like that. But for most people, it has a lot to do with the passion, getting tired of the monotony, or again, something catastrophic. But so I heard it in you, in your voice and everything. And if we weren't running in the middle of a 5K and I only had about another minute left of breath to talk, we would have had the conversation then, and I wanted to have it then. And then to see, I think it was yesterday, your announcement and your new venture, I was pumped. I was like, yes, I'm so excited. He's doing something. He's making big changes. And I love everybody over at Business 411 and Elizabeth. So I'm really excited for your next venture on that.
Yeah, I am too. Awesome. And to be honest, that whole thing just came together. It was fate. I told her the same thing. It was, we did a podcast episode maybe a month ago. We recorded it just like you and I are. And at IRE, it got released. But I announced that I was not going to do the general manager deal anymore a few days earlier. But when Liz and I did our podcast, it was like, I didn't know her story in depth, right? Like I knew her since she was at iRoofing way back in the day, and have followed and have been cool and all that, but I didn't really understand the whole story. And once you hear the whole story, it's like, oh my gosh, like I have the highest level of respect for anybody I've ever met all of a sudden for this young lady. And I never would have considered that as an option at all. That was nothing that was even on my radar, but I put that out there and she called me, and it was like immediately I realized, yep, this is what I'm supposed to do, because I want to get into educating. I've been doing consulting for the last couple of years. My mentor, Mike Code, God bless him, he's the reason why I have all this stuff. He allowed me to go with him and do training with roofing companies across the country. I would literally get to go in and be with the sales team by myself for 4 or 5 hours and do that stuff. And I realized how much I loved it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what happened for me, and this is really the greatest compliment to the people that I surrounded myself with, is I outgrew it. I went from being Chuck the roofer 4 years ago, who everybody laughed and was like, nobody loves roofing but Chuck, you know, like this guy loves seeing
nobody loves roofing like Chuck.
Yeah. And I get to the point where it's like, dude, I don't really love roofing like that emphatically. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I've seen probably 10,000 different roofs being installed. But if you've seen the first 3 or 4 of them, the next 9,997 are all pretty much the same. You know, helping homeowners is awesome. And that's been the thing I've prided myself on the most, is educating the homeowners so they don't get taken advantage of. And this is an opportunity to do that on a much wider scale. I was talking with Diego Dante, the head guy over at RoofCon last night, and he was doing the same thing. He was general manager of a roofing company, and he got right back into RoofCon. And I said, dude, I get it. We're the same because we want to reach more people than we were able to in that vehicle. But that vehicle took me a long way, man. 4 years ago, I was a different guy. I would have never dreamt that I'd be talking on a podcast that's got 112 or 115 episodes. And, I'm working on stuff with this that's going to completely change it. And it's going to have a future that's pretty bright. So to me, I think it's an amazing thing. And I've always said, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, there's no sense in doing it. Right. And I've let myself linger several times. I've only had 3 jobs in the last 25 years, but that's because each one of them, I probably held on a little bit longer than I should have. And, I learned a lot, though. I went to North Carolina one time and I opened a roofing supply company from scratch with a complete stranger that I met the day that we opened it at the front door. That's just stuff that people don't do. Normal people don't. But it's cool because then you start to realize there are a lot of people out there that do take those risks, and sometimes they don't work out, on the surface. But I'll always consider Rio Blanco Roofing to be a massive success. The time that I was there, we built it to a 5-star brand with over 300 reviews. I have no complaints anywhere from any client that we ever had. I got a 5-star review yesterday, and
I saw that. Yeah, I saw
we
the
were
review
done
yesterday.
with it a month ago.
Still
so
getting reviews.
Pretty proud of the way that worked out, and I have my head held high. I just know that I have something more to give. General manager of a roofing company is cool. I can help 8 to 10 people and their families, and I can help these. Or I can find something bigger and can help thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Who knows? Maybe someday millions of people can say,
definitely
hey,
millions.
That dude right there did something that helped me. And that's what this is really all about. I know one thing about you is that you're very well respected by everyone. We have a mutual friend, and I was getting into the story about how we actually met. It was kind of ironic. Before we even met at Dallas, just a few days earlier, we were on a phone call. And this was the strangest thing ever because our mutual friend, Jason Quimby, is down in Florida, and he's an amazing guy. Absolutely one of my favorite people in this industry. One of the genuine, you just know this dude is not going to, he's not going to turn his back on you. He's going to be there. He's in the trenches with you for life. And we talk a lot. He's been on my podcast a couple of times, and I didn't know anything of your association in any way, but he called me up. And it was funny. I was actually working with David Taggart that day. He gave me a call. It was the day after I decided not to do my company. And David Taggart called and was like, hey, man, you want to come out and knock some doors with my team today? And I just wanted to go out and just be around some energy and some younger guys and see if I could help. And as I'm driving out there, Jason calls. We get on this 3-way call, and we were like, let's meet in Dallas. Let's meet at IRE. And we never really cemented any of that stuff, but we fast forward into IRE, and Dave Carroll is doing the dope running, which that's another tie to the podcast because he was on the podcast like a week earlier. And I joked to everybody, and I'm like, thank God Dave Carroll was on a week earlier, not 6 months earlier, because in that episode, I was like, dude, the next time I see you, man, we're going to do a long distance run. And I wasn't super committed to it, and thank God it was like the very next week because that was fate in its own right. Because if it would have been earlier or later, I'd have been sucking wind like crazy. But I'd been running a little bit prior to that.
There you go. I had not.
So
I was sucking wind like crazy. I still,
dude, I respect you, and I respect the guy that was there with you because he showed up and was like, "Man, I was out late last night, but I got up and did it." And he's like, "I haven't run in like 20 years." And that dude was hanging with us the whole way. So much respect. I didn't catch his name. He was your guy.
That was Alex Covey, man. He's
Alex Covey. You're the man. That was cool. But let's talk a little bit about that. Being a entrepreneur with multiple business ventures that you're highly successful with, a family man who takes time to actually be there with his family and is very intentional with that. You do have a lot of travel, I'm sure, with what you do for a living. What's the dynamic with your family life versus your travel? How do you keep that balance? And what do you do to make, it's never easy to leave your family behind, because you just never know in this world what could happen. What is that dynamic like for you? How does that affect your family? The ages of your kids and stuff, they're young. How does
Yeah.
that
It's
affect
tough.
your
It's
and how many
really tough.
days a year do you figure you're away from your family?
So we made a couple rules. We've got a few things going on, and I I'm not perfect. I always try to do better. Everything that I do, I try to be a better person, a better father, a better husband. My wife and I are pretty strict about like after 5 o'clock, the phone goes down. Now, I was talking, I think I was during a run or one of the Dave Carroll 5K things, and Jason Quimby was there, Matt Danskin was there, and Matt mentioned that he does the same thing. He's got the rule the phone goes down, and David Carroll was talking about it as well. So I like to surround myself with people that are just great people. Always surround yourself with great people, and that's how we keep coming along with the same people, because you do the same thing, Chuck. So
Yep.
we're right around these same people. And Matt was telling the story that he was sitting on the couch and he caught himself looking at his phone when his kid was asking him a question and he didn't say anything back, and it's like hit him like that deep down in the gut, like what the hell am I doing? Threw the phone across the room. So that's the start of it. So the big thing, put the phone down more, spend quality time, the time that you have. So spending time working or your mind is elsewhere, it's just being present. So that's like rule number one, is the time that I do have with my children and my wife, be present. Put the phone down. Don't focus on the phone. Don't focus on anything, and more your mind, because I'm a daydreaming fool. Like I will just get lost in my mind sometimes. So again, keep the focus on what's around me. So if I start there, then everything else starts to come along. And there's some other things that we have, like I make it a passion not to work on or travel on the weekends. So there's some business calls, and it conflicts a little bit, and there's some contradiction, because I pride myself in, you call me, I'm answering the phone. Right. So that's customer service. There's a lot of customer service aspects to that. If somebody calls me, I'm going to answer my phone, but I'm very quick to say, hey, I'm spending time with my family. Give me an hour, give me 30 minutes, give me 45 minutes, and I'll call you back. Things like that. So I always have to be there. But again, no traveling on the weekends. Like my son had his first soccer game this past Saturday morning, and I was at Win the Storm, and I flew home that Friday afternoon right after the event. We packed up the event. I went straight to the airport and flew home. Made it in time to watch my kids soccer game Saturday morning, and I love it. So it's really just capturing the time, being present with your kids when you have a chance, being present with your wife when you have a chance, and keeping it separate and making time for both, and really be a master of your time. And I'm not some master perfect expert. My wife will tell you right away, she's like, you need to spend more time. But the thing is, there's never enough. There's never enough time that I can devote to my children and my wife, because everything I do is for them. Hands down, everything I do is for them. And my goal is to work enough to where I don't have to. Now, I don't think I'll ever be able to turn it off. I love business. I love new business ideas. There's things that just get me so excited, and I have so much love for it. I was talking to my wife. It was probably when we left Missouri, and we were talking about, what we could do, what we would do, and different opportunities. I'm like, I would live nowhere in a trailer, making nothing, doing nothing as an employee, if I got to spend more time with you and the kids. And I wholeheartedly believe that would be fine. I would be completely happy doing that. Being a child in the storm industry, we had ups and downs. The storm industry will do that to anybody, the best of you. So I've
For sure
been at the top and the bottom. And as a child, I've been there. And I could tell you, the small homes where it was like, we all lived together and we were all around each other, I love that. I had more enjoyment out of that, being able to walk into the kitchen and see my family, as opposed to these ginormous homes where I felt like I didn't see my mom for a week because she was in the other quadrant of the house. Like I didn't enjoy that. So rich, poor, it really doesn't, none of that mattered, but I did realize in talking that I would be missing something in myself if I didn't try to grow businesses and build businesses. So that is a big part of it. I need that for me to feel fulfilled. Not only do I need my wife, my kids, but I do need to make an impact. I need to make an impact on people's lives, help business, help people grow, and help other people's families. It's not, you said it yourself, you had 8 or 9 guys that you impacted. So you didn't have a wife and kids. You had 8 or 9 wives and kids, and that is all the stress on your shoulders. So that is very much just as much as part of my mission. You know, it always comes second, you know, God, my wife, my kids, and then work. But I need it to be fulfilled as well. So that doesn't really answer the question. I've not got no crystal ball that do this, do that. You'll be perfectly balanced. There is no perfect balance.
No, that answers the question perfectly. As a matter of fact, that is the perfect answer. Thank you for that perfect answer. But there's another wrinkle to the whole thing, right? So you said it yourself, you know, God, your family, and work. You also mentioned the need to fulfill your own personal stuff. Okay. So you spend the majority of your day working on your business and with your family. We touched on it very briefly. You know, at 5 a.m. this morning, you got up and did some stuff. What do you do for yourself, Alan, to get, you know, refreshed, to stay sharp, to make sure that you don't get burned out, to make sure that your mind doesn't wander off into places it shouldn't be wandering, and you don't have those kind of thoughts, because it seems like you've got your day pretty packed. So where do you find time for yourself, and what does that time look like? What kind of stuff do you do just for fun for yourself?
You know, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning and I go to the gym, but just the drive to the gym, I got to drive like 15 minutes for a gym. And the drive alone, listen to music, listen to podcasts, listen to something like that. It's an audiobook. It's a little bit different every day. Working out is time. It's, again, if somebody's active and they work out and they're physical, and they'll tell you that there's just something about it that it helps your day throughout the day, the good energy, the endorphins it releases. There's a lot of that. I mean, not to be cliche, but the time with my kids, the time with my wife is for myself. I mean, it's selfish. It really is. That fulfills me more than anything else. I've never been that person that wants to go off and do things by myself. My wife will even tell you, it's like, we'll have a date night. I want to invite all my friends. I want to invite like other people. It's because I just love people. I love having people around. And so the people I love the most in this world are the people that fulfill me the most. That is my time. That is my passion. If I want to do something for myself, it's go spend time with my wife. It's go spend time with my kids. That is what I can do for myself more than anything else.
Man, that's amazing. And that's, you know, that sums Alan up perfectly from what everybody I've ever spoken to about him says. So you're very consistent with that. You're highly respected in the industry. You did just mention a second ago that you're at Win the Storm. Obviously, there's a pretty big event that happened this year at Win the Storm for you. Tell us a little bit about that experience. You got nominated. It seems to me like the nominations were kind of a surprise, and they kind of came out like pretty close to the show. So how did that work for you in your mind, you know, finding out, number one, you know, hey, whoa, like I'm up here on this board. And then second, you know, the results were pretty good, right?
Yeah, the results ended up pretty well. So, you know, Anthony and Win the Storm are not the most organized. I don't think that's bashing him, you know, because I'm making a point not to say anything negative about, and there's not. One of my superpowers is empathy, if not my biggest superpower, right? So I'm never going to say anything bad. But they're just not very organized. Let's just be honest. Like, Anthony comes from the roofing industry. It's hard to be organized if you come from the roofing industry. It just is. I think great business people and great salespeople and those type of people, organizational ability is just not high up on that list. So no, I didn't find out till later. It did come as a surprise. I make it a point to, again, I surround myself with good people. Because I'm empathetic, I know I can read people really well. Like I feel like it's one of the things that I'm great at. So like, Chuck, within a few minutes of meeting you, of talking to you, I'm like, this is a good person. He does the right thing. He, you know, handles himself correctly. And people like that, you're going to attract more people. So when I came to this side of the industry, not a roofer, but I actually came to this side of the industry, because when we were a roofer, we weren't on this side of the industry. I sought out people like yourself, people that are good people, and good people that do good things are going to influence more people and attract more people in that way. So it's been 2.5 years of finding people like that, making relationships, adding value first. And that's what I've been doing. So it came as a surprise at first, but I talked to some people like the Alex Kobe, like Alex Hefner, like David Carroll, a lot of these people, and they're like, Alan, you were very much super influential. Like Jason Quimby said, it's more behind the scenes, the conversations that you're having, talking to people, helping people. I think even for the first year at Just Share Media, I was making a lot of the phone calls to a lot of the roofing companies or people that would sign up and buy videos from us. And never once would I try to sell them a video. I would talk to them about their business, and I would get into detail to hear them out on what their struggles were, what their pain points were. And I would treat them like I was a general manager or a vice president of a big organization again, and just hear them out. Like, okay, how can we help you here? How can we help you here? How can we help you here? You're not ready for this, or you're ready for this. And that's all I would do. So, and I think some people took note of that. I think what happened, or I know what happened. So there's Lazaro. I don't know if do you know Lazaro at all with Win the Storm? He was with Anthony and Win the Storm for years.
I don't know too many folks at SVG at all, to be honest.
So he was at Storm Ventures Group probably 5 years plus, but he was like their top guy, their top account manager, and he's no longer with them today, but he still, again, helped out with this Win the Storm by taking phone calls. And he was the one that when Anthony and some of the other guys were looking for people, they nominated me. So they brought my name up, and then I don't know how they do it. Maybe call around other people and say, okay, this guy's name got brought up. What do you think? I know they do have a voting thing online, but I don't even think it was up. So I'm not going to claim to think the nomination part of it was from the votes online, but at least my name got brought up, and multiple people, again, they were having those conversations where Alan is influential with this person. He's strategic with this person. He helps this person. And again, it all alludes back to my upbringing. I was able to go into a school and make friends with everybody. And a lot of people, again, they compare the roofing industry to high school. It's like all your little cliques and all your different people. And I get along with everybody because I empathize with everybody, even the bad people. I see that why they do things. You know, there's very few people that are just awful people inside and out. Their intentions are bad. What they do is bad. Everything. Even the worst people have good intentions sometimes, and that matters as well. So I see that, and I get close to them, and I talk to them, and I see how I can help them. And a lot of it is how I can help the people that they touch, right? Maybe I can't help that person, but I can help everybody they touch. So I got nominated. From there, it's like I get awkward when I talk about myself. I hate talking about
it's
myself.
Cool though. I like it. You know, I'm the exact opposite. I like talking about myself. And this podcast has been hard for me because it's like the number one piece of advice I got was 2 ears, 1 mouth. Ask the question, shut up. It's not about me. And I love listening to it, but I know what you mean. You know, after a while,
well, I hear myself talking on your podcast. I'm like, I'm talking too much. Chuck, take the mic.
You're not. Trust me, you are not talking too much at all. I love it because it's enthusiasm, and you know what? Brag on yourself a little bit, dude. That's a major accomplishment. And are you saying you don't think that the online votes counted?
Well, so the nominations. So there was nominations.
Okay, cool. Because I was going to say, man, I am confident 100% that my singular vote won you, Elizabeth, Dave Carroll, and TJ McCormick all your awards. It was all teetering on that one, and mine swung the thing.
Because they didn't release the nominations enough. So they had it to where you could type in a name and nominate, and then the top 3. This is how they did it last year, at least. And I think this is how most of them do it. You type in a name, and then the top 3 nominations are nominated. So I don't think that part happened the way it was supposed to this year because it was so late. So I think people were just verbally nominated. So I made it there. And then what I was saying is I'm really humble, and I pride myself on being humble. So I was supposed to make this video. Now I love videos. Obviously my tech company is a videography company. So all things videos, great. But I'm like, how do I do this in a way to where if I talk about myself, I'm just bragging. If somebody else says something, it's the truth. So I texted probably 3 or 4 people, and I texted them a video of myself saying, hey, I was nominated for this award, the most influential person of the year. And I don't really know what to say or do, but I've got to create a 2-minute video. you're one of the most influential people that I know. If you think I'm eligible to win it, could you maybe shoot a quick video like this and send it back to me? And I had no idea the types of videos I was going to get back. Like a few of them made me tear up. I was like, oh man, wow.
Right?
Hearing
Like
all these
that,
good
but
things.
it's so true and so real. And that's what was awesome about watching that. I just met you and I was watching it. And I'm like, dude, this is like, this guy's got to win. Come on. Like,
it was a smart
that
idea.
Was amazing.
It was kind of spur of the moment and it just happened. And I can tell you, if you're ever having a bad day, send a video to your friends asking what they think about you. I'm telling you, man, that I was on a high every day getting those videos, and it started really growing steam. And I still have probably 5 or 10 videos that I didn't get a chance to post. A lot of my friends just started sending me videos, and when I say friends, I don't mean like my buddy, my best friend, like the people in the industry that I've aligned myself with, those are my friends. I mean, David Carroll, he's one of my best friends, Jason Quimby, one of my best friends. Like, these are my best friends, Alex Kobe, Alex Hefner, all of these influential people. They're just good people that I surround myself with. So then they started sending me videos, and even Derek Ford posted one on my social media without me even asking. Some of these people were not even people that I asked for a video from, because again, I didn't want to ask a whole bunch of people for it, because I know it's not easy. A lot of people don't like jumping in front of the camera and recording themselves. Like, that's one of the reasons why I have a videography company, to make videos for people, because they don't like to jump in front of the camera. And so the outpouring and the amount of videos that I got was amazing. And so I just put them out there, and people were watching them. They were getting watched a lot. People started voting, and I ended up winning the vote count. And I was up against 2 people that are very influential. Kimba Garcia is CEO AF, right? and
she's definitely up there. I looked at that for a second. And it was like, if I hadn't have just met Alan like a couple days earlier, I probably would have voted for her, to be honest, So again, that was all timing. If that singular vote got it, it was all because of Jason Quimby,
there we go,
and David Carroll, and us being stuck in that park wondering if we're at the right spot. So there you go. But yeah, that is so amazing. And I love the approach. That was actually one of the bullet points I had was, the videos that you had other people, number one, it's hugely influential to have people do that. So if you're going for that award, okay, that's pretty much the biggest flex I've ever seen. But it was so well deserved, because all of it was genuine. You didn't have people, hey dude, I'll give you $20 to say something nice about me. And I know there are people that are like that in this industry, that I see their stuff and I'm like, come on, really? Like, that's not even real. But it was well deserved, and it's something that I'm super proud, because like I said, now it's almost like I have Mount Rushmore on my podcast. I had TJ McCormick, I had you, I had Elizabeth, and who was the fourth one?
David Carroll.
Dave Carroll. Yeah. Yep. Oh, sorry, Dave. My bad. He was the comeback kid. And that to me is like, okay, now if Keepin at Rio gets canceled tomorrow, which there's no possible way it will, because I'm the only one that controls that, at least I can go out saying I had Mount Rushmore. And Lee Haight was up there too. He wasn't one of the award guys, but he's on my Mount Rushmore as well.
There you go.
So we're getting down to that 54-minute. I always like to try to keep this to about an hour. This has been so much fun. Let me start winding down a little bit with some of the questions that are not so relative to, the one final question that I always ask that's business or, related to what we do is, where do you see yourself in 10 years as far as your business goes? Do you have a plan to, obviously you said you'll probably work, like me until the day that we die, probably going to get up out of my casket and take care of a couple of things on my to-do list before I check out. But to be in this rat race as it is, and to continue to move forward and build and develop, at some point, like you say, we all get tired of it and we all just want to, kick back and enjoy what we've got left. What's your plan look like as far as that goes moving forward? Do you want to continue to grow for a little while and then, figure out what to do at that point? Or do you have a pretty well-defined exit strategy for, this is what my family is going to be like 10 years from now, and it's going to be amazing?
I think I've got a pretty well-defined strategy, but I'm always open for opportunity. So I never know where that's going to get me. Just Share Media is growing phenomenally. One of my partners is one of the founding members of DoorDash, and he's very much in that tech startup scene and industry. And we'll be getting more funding this year and growing into multiple verticals. Our plan with that is cover all the home service spaces. So in 10 years, that's going to be an animal of its own. So it's going to go off, and I see it in just about every industry there is. Anytime that you want fully authentic, fully movie quality videos, that's going to be one of the places that you go, one of the first places you go. And I'm very excited to watch that grow. I see that like a baby of mine, you know, coming up with the idea for something and watching it and kind of scaling myself out of it and passing it on to people that are way better than me is going to be really cool to watch that grow. National Claims Advisors. It's a national pre-litigation law firm that my experience in running business, running people, commercial, all of that kind of stuff is what landed me running this business. And it's amazing. It's the things that we're doing at National Claims Advisors to truly help policyholders is huge. I see the fact that I see a huge impact we are making on the claim side of things on our industry. So I'm really excited to be a part of that growth and to be able to quarterback it. It's a lot of fun. I've got amazing people like Jason Quimby around me, and more amazing people joining the team every day, and to have the support, and then to have the backing that is John Black and Rick Daly. I mean, they're pretty amazing people, very cool people, and amazing at what they do. So I know we're going to enact some big changes at National Claims Advisors. But those are, again, just steps on the ladder, like mergers and acquisitions, business, entrepreneurship. All of that is in my future. I love startups. I love building something, watching it grow. I love going into businesses and helping them get to that next level. Love commercial development. I love real estate. I love all of that. I had my toes in that water, and I had to step out because I didn't love living in central Missouri, but I very much plan on going back into that head first. So I think 10 years from now, I think both of my other businesses that I'm in today are going to be running themselves. I think I may be a chairman of the board, or maybe we've liquidated at that point. And, but by 10 years, I'll be heavily invested in multiple other businesses. I may have multiple exits, multiple liquidations, but a lot of it is investing into people. So I know my Uncle Marty was big with this. He said, you know, I never traded stocks. He always used to say a lot of people make a lot of money trading stocks. He said, I trade people. I invest in people. And that's, again, I'm not this genius that's coming up with these great ideas. Like you may get lucky to come up with one great innovation or one idea, and there may be one per lifetime. But a lot of people do. And a lot of people don't have that reach or that power to make their great innovation or their great idea happen. So I want to be the facilitator that helps them. So the more and more people that I put myself around that are way smarter than I am and way better than I am, and I can reach out to those people and they come up with big ideas and big business ideas and need help or anything else, those are the people that I want to help. Those are the businesses I want to grow.
Man, that's amazing. And
yeah.
I got goosebumps just for listening to that. That was the motivational speech of all time right there.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that watch Keepin' It Real, like I said, we do have a lot of industry presence, but I also have completely veered off course, and I've got people all over the world. A lot of intelligent people, way smarter than I am, have been on this show. And I think a lot of those folks would love to be able to follow you and your development and continued growth. And, you know, everything that's going to happen for you. What is the best way for people to maybe not get in contact? I'm certainly not encouraging any people from my audience to do that, but to follow you, to kind of, you know, see what's going on. And if there is anybody that could potentially utilize your services, you know, what would be the best way for them to find a way to make that happen?
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, slide in my DMs. You know, that's probably the easiest. I'm on Facebook, if any platform more than the others. So you can go to my Facebook, Alan Mick. It's pretty simple to find me.
I'm on it right now.
There you go. You're on it right now. So you go to my Facebook and just slide in my DMs. You can go to either one of my websites, nationalclaimsadvisors.com, justsharemedia.com. My phone number is out there in the world as well. So you can find my phone number from just about anybody and text me and get a hold of me and let me help you. And it just depends on who you are, what you're doing, and how I can help you. And I'm sure if you're in the roofing industry or if you're in business in general, there's a way that I can help you. And I'd love to be able to help you. So reach out to me that way. I do have my own podcast that I inherited from a great friend of mine, Nick Perrette. He exited his company and his company's still running really strong, but he handed over his podcast. So it's actually Commercial Roofing Radio. You can get to know me and my guests more. And Chuck doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be my guest on the podcast very soon. So we get to flip the script and I get to interview him and listen to more about his kind of stuff because I want to hear more. So Commercial Roofing Radio, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of those places. So
that's a lot of pretty amazing. And what a small world. I was on Nick's podcast a long time ago, but it was when he was teamed up with Randy Brothers.
Yep, Randy Brothers. I love him.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. So, Alan, thank you for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. This has been so enjoyable for me. I definitely want to be a guest on your podcast because I think we could probably go another 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
I know people don't like listening to it as much as we like talking it in the moment. So, one thing I do want to ask, okay, I get over towards Waxahachie frequently. I did have a lot of stuff in East Texas for a long time there with my affiliations, but I've got some friends over there. The next time I'm in town, would it be acceptable for me to reach out to you and we go grab a bite to eat somewhere and just hang out for a little bit and just shoot the breeze?
I'd be mad at you if you didn't. To be honest,
right,
if
well,
I found out you're in Waxahachie and you did not call me, yeah, I'd be upset. So
I definitely don't want you being upset with me. Anytime you upset the most influential man, it does not have good results for you. So definitely not looking for that at all. We'll definitely do it because I got a place over there that's pretty amazing. A friend of mine that's a roofer also owns a cool restaurant there. So we'll make that happen, my friend. I appreciate your time. Like I said, thank you for everything. This has been so fun. We'll do it again soon. For everybody that's watching, thank you guys again for being here. Keeping It Rio has become like way more successful than I ever thought it would ever be. And I get some amazing people that I get to talk to because of it. So thank you guys for all the support. And this will be out probably in about 3-4 weeks, maybe. I'll have to look at my thing, but I've got a bunch of them coming up. I've got some unique guests. You're in there with Eric Oberempt, and you're also in there with a lady that, like I said, lives on a Polynesian island that I'd never heard of before. Awesome. So plenty of cool stuff in there. Until next time, everybody, thank you. And don't forget to keep on keeping it Rio. That's my cheesy line right there to end it. So